Let's talk about love for a few minutes, or maybe love we could talk about for a few minutes. Love is one of those things that is also, I think, a big conundrum for atheism. And in fact, atheist friends often say to me, Andy, why are you not an atheist? You know, you're a philosopher, you're a thinking person. And I always say, well, actually, it's precisely because I am a thinking person that I'm a Christian. And one of the things I think for atheism, that it really fails to grapple properly with some of the things that are most central to the human condition and experience, and love is one of them. Let me illustrate by way of a story. A friend of mine was on a university campus a few years ago, and he was talking to a university student who, on finding out that my friend was a Christian, this university student immediately responded by saying, "Oh, you're a Christian. Well, I'm not into God. I'm not into God," was his response. Well, unfazed, my friend replied to the student. He said, "Okay, you're not into God. What are you into?" And this student thought for a moment and said, "I'm into love." Sounds like a really clever answer. My friend sort of smiled and said, "That's really interesting. Tell me, what do you think love is?" And that was really interesting. The student said to him, my friend, he said, "You know, I don't really know, actually. I haven't really kind of thought about that. That's a really interesting question." Then my friend followed up and said, "Well, I guess because you're not into God, you would call yourself an atheist, right?" And the student thought for a moment and went, yeah, that's a good label. Yeah, I would be an atheist, definitely." Well, my friend said, what about we give you an atheist definition of love? You know, if you're an atheist, you're probably committed to the idea, right? There are just atoms and particles and material things, no supernatural. So let's try a purely material explanation for love. What if we said that love was a chemical reaction generated by the atoms in our brain, designed to manipulate us, to trick us into forming relationships with the opposite sex so that we can reproduce and pass our DNA on to the next generation? How's that for a definition? And the student thought for a moment and said, "Oh, yeah, I could see how that might work." Well, standing next to him was his girlfriend, who at this point turned to the student and went, "What? When you told me you love me, is that what you think?" And my friend said it was hilarious because the student then began backpedaling and saying, "Oh, well, no, actually, no, she's right. No, I don't think that does work." And then my friend was able to talk to both of them then and say, "Well, but why is that such a terrible definition? It's a purely material definition. As you said, you don't believe in God. Why do you find that a problem?" And it was really interesting. And he was able to then tease out with them and say, you know, maybe the fact that definition just doesn't work is a clue that something else is going on. Because love, the kind of love that they were looking for, love that would, you know, spoke to something much more deeply than just atoms and particles, does fit so much better into the Christian story, because the heart of the Christian story is that there is a God of love behind this universe who's created human beings and designed us for love, to love him and to love one another. And yes, we are biological, but that's only a small part of a much bigger story. And so once again, I think love is one of those phenomena that I think atheism does a terrible job of explaining. But if watching this you're thinking, but love matters, it means something, then come on home to the true story in which that fits, the story of a God who loves you very much indeed.